Well, good evening and welcome to the planning board meeting for December 8th. We'll start with the pledge to the flag by...
Make it the town board meeting?
Yeah,
Town board, sorry.
I think we're.
I know.
Councilman Isaac. I was waxing nostalgic. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Randy, can you call the roll, please?
Councilman Boyce.
Present.
Councilman Kerr.
Present.
Councilman Froelich.
Present.
Councilman Isakson.
Present.
Supervisor Select.
Present. Thank you. We'll start off with our first session of public comment tonight. Anyone?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Linda.
All right. The top, oh, first.
One top.
Hello. Lights on. There we go.
There you go.
Sorry.
Okay, Linda Elmer, 42 Frederick Street. Who wants to give me a good update?
What do you want to know?
I want to know when the seniors can move back into town hall.
Still on.
It's been almost 2 years.
I know that, Linda. We're still on schedule.
On schedule for the end of December?
Yes,
Are you sure? I've heard from several people there's stuff going on that we're not going to be in by then.
There are a couple little hiccups, but the workarounds have been taken care of, so we can move back in.
Okay,
I can tell you right now, the painting upstairs is done. Ceilings and electric upstairs is all done. Today they were just finishing the ceilings and the walls in the ladies' room. Downstairs, all the painting's done, the grid work's done. They're right now finishing up the ceilings. So that just leaves the floors upstairs to be done. Downstairs and the fixtures, of course, to be put back in the bathrooms. And then downstairs we have some ductwork that needs to be insulated. The furnaces have to be put in. And the IP connections, which we worked out today, are going to be finished.
okay. The seniors, the last meeting for the seniors this year is December 16th. And then we shut ourselves down for the holidays. We don't meet because of family stuff, and all that. So, I would like to tell them on the 16th, a date that they can move in. Now, if you know we're moving, it's going to be done by the end of December, I would think you'd be able to give me a date, no?
Well, by then I'll work to get you a date. How's that?
By the 16th,
By
I'll
the
give you a
16th,
date.
and I'll also bring you pictures. How's that?
Okay, that'll work too. And also, is there any way that I can get into the town center and just take a look at what's been done and what needs to be done, and
Sure.
somebody wanna,
When do you want to go?
Friday
What time?
morning,
9 o'clock?
9 o'clock?
I'll be there.
I'll go walk through with you on Friday.
Okay. Because like I said, we're currently down at VFW, and I have to let them know if we're gonna need any more Thursdays, and they wanna know, as much ahead of time as possible, because they have all kinds of parties and receptions and stuff. So, in order to cover the seniors, I will ask for the first 2 Thursdays in January,
Okay.
but I'm not gonna ask for any more.
I would.
Okay. I feel a lot better. And I thank you for your updates. And the seniors are having a really rough time. A lot of them aren't happy with no matter what we do because we're not here. There's just they like things, I know you heard me go on and on and on and on about them, but how they like things to stay the same. And we're gonna have a whole bunch of new officers this year, supposedly that's gonna make it better. But we will see. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Rowland?
Just a couple of questions. A few months back, I asked if there was a possibility that we could check with the military to find out whether or not they could eliminate using Saratoga Airport for the helicopter training. Did we ever follow up on that?
I spoke to someone at the Air National Guard in Schenectady and at the Albany County Airport where both operations are held, and they will make an effort to reduce the schedule, but they didn't sound very serious about eliminating us from the rotation, but they said they would try to not be here as frequently as they have been.
So we don't have a positive outcome on that.
Not as positive as we'd all like, but a little less rotation is better than what we have been getting.
Okay. You have an agenda item here for motion to allow the highway department to plow the roads in Fair Oaks development. Is that because the town has not yet accepted the roads there?
I don't believe we have. Jason?
They have not been dedicated.
They haven't turned them over to us yet.
I'm sorry?
They have not turned the roads over to the town yet,
Okay. Then why are we plowing them?
because we have in the past.
You have in the past?
There's been other developments that have not turned the roads over, and we've plowed for them.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Mrs. Morosi?
You might address right or do you know it? Just looking for an update on the Liberty Hills Water District.
The testing was done, and we're just waiting for the engineers to file their reports.
Do you have the results of the tests?
I do not. Mrs. Judah? Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. It's Michelle Judah from 34 Van Tassel Lane. I just wanted to make a statement again about Planet. I'm not sure if it's going to be brought up under old business or not. Our understanding is that the license for Planet is scheduled to be done this month. It sounds as if it's likely going to happen, and there's a site inspection going on. We do understand that it's the board's position that the grandfather licensing and permits were done properly. As you know, the residents of that area feel that it was not done properly, and it's a different use altogether. My question tonight is asking again for an update on what's going on with the sound study. There was a lot of talk about the sound study at the board meeting. $4,000 was spent. We had the gentleman come and do a presentation on where he was at. He was requesting some assistance because he couldn't complete the sound study. The board had been looking at least to get some mitigation recommendations out of the sound study, and I do know that there was some thinking that, perhaps it might create some type of path to looking at, our noise ordinance in Milton, and whether that would somehow bring some resolution to the residents in that area. And now it's just gone to silence. So really hoping that we can hear something about what's going on with the sound study, why we spent that $4,000, what's the status on that? Thank you.
Anyone else on the floor? Mr. Bogosian?
Thank you. I was looking at the agenda for tonight, and I did not see any items regarding payment of the sewer permit, so I was just wondering what is the update on the sewer connection for the town hall renovations?
Sewer connection permit has been secured. The tally for the IRUs, is it?
ERUs.
ERUs is 14, so we owe 28,000.
You cannot secure a permit until the money is paid, though, John.
Well, we have set it aside, it'd be us paying our own building department, so they can put it in escrow.
When did that action take place?
That's why all the sewer hookups go.
No, when did the board authorize $28,000 for the sewer permit?
All we did, I don't know that we authorized it, we just put it aside.
Okay. So you can't secure a sewer permit until the rate is paid. So we don't have a sewer permit because the rate hasn't been paid, correct?
The IRUs, or ERUs, I'm sorry, that has not been paid yet.
So then the sewer permit cannot be issued until the rate is paid. So according to your sewer construction permit application, it states clearly this permit has been prepared as part of the terms and conditions associated with local law number 4 of 2012. This permit is required for connections, repairs, alterations of, maintenance, excavation, or uncovering of sewer lines. None of the above activities are allowed until this permit has been completed by the applicant and approved by the town of Milton. So the only thing that we received from the FOIL request was an application that is not signed by the building department and thus is not approved as a permit because the fee has not been submitted. And I don't know why we wouldn't have an agenda item tonight that would have a resolution to authorize the payment of $28,000 for the sewer connection fee. So the permit can't be issued until the fee is paid. That's the way the terms and conditions of local law number 4 of 2012 are stated. So when we say we have a permit, we can't have a permit because we haven't paid for it. It's not a matter of semantics, it's a matter of your legislation. Secondly, in the bigger picture, I'm wondering if the taxpayers here tonight have an idea of what we're getting as taxpayers for $28,000. Does the board have any idea of what we get for, what do we get for $28,000?
I would imagine we get to hook up to the sewers.
That's it? No pipes are installed, no work is done, we just have to pay $28,000 for what? The privilege of connecting to a pipe owned by private individuals? That the town has not regulated as you're required to regulate under the law. So how do we know that rate is even correct? So we're paying a rate that we don't even know is correct for, in essence, nothing. We're paying to enrich a private corporation. And according to your permit, it says town hall renovations, description of project, town hall renovations, sanitary pump station, and connection to public sewer. Can anyone on this board tell me?
That was a typo, it should say private sewer company.
So, but regardless, we don't have a permit. So my question is, in the vein of updating the public, when will we have a valid permit?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Are we authorizing it
We will,
tonight?
Yep, we'll do it tonight.
That's it?
when I talked to the controller this afternoon, he didn't see a need to do that, but we will handle that tonight.
So who would spend $28,000 without authorization from the board?
We're not,
Thank you.
Mr. Dawson.
Good evening, everyone. Tony Dawson, Planet Waste Recycling, 274 Greenfield Avenue, Boston Spa, New York. In summary, slander can be defined by false accusations. In summary, defamation can be defined as injury to one's reputation. After Ms. Judah's comments during the June 9th, 2021 meeting, Supervisor Zlotnick stated at 1 hour, 26 minutes, 25 seconds, I can respond to Ms. Judah's request. At our meeting, I asked Jim Craig and Bill Kennery to get together and do some research, and it is their decision, their considered opinion, that Planet has not been illegally grandfathered. They have been properly grandfathered, and they are moving that this issue, as far as the town is concerned, the Planet issue is taken care of. Supervisor Zlotnick's communication of final determination of two town attorneys, along with Chapter 103, Local Law Number 5 of 1989, conditions of subdivision approvals, and deed restrictions, make it abundantly clear that Planet Waste and Recycling is in fact properly licensed and in full compliance with all applicable laws, properly grandfathered. The alleged expansion is false and supported by the following. We have not acquired additional parcels of land to expand the size of our facility. Scrap metal recycling is inclusive of Chapter 103 and permitted. Scrap metal recycling is nothing new to this facility. It is of record that Ed Lawyer purchased and processed scrap metal at this location. If someone wishes to comment on me or my business during public comment period, or read a letter into record on behalf of another party, tonight or at any other future meetings, I would respectfully request them to make sure any comments or statements they make to be of fact opposed to opinion, as historical statements have been factually incorrect and of opinion instead of fact. I will take legal action if the regurgitation of factually incorrect, slanderous, defamatory comments that are not supported by fact or law does not stop immediately. Ms. Judah seems to be speaking out of both sides of her mouth. She wants to attack on Councilwoman Kerr with her last update on the sound study before the people from BNL came along. For the record, my license was renewed this year already. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Mr. Bogosian.
I guess the night wouldn't be complete if I didn't get up and say something. So, continuing along with the sewer issue, it really flabbergasting that we're still talking about it decades later. We're still in a rate proceeding. The last thing that happened was the sewer company refused to appear and testify under oath as to their investment in the sewer company and infrastructure because they don't have any, but they refused to come, and their attorney sent a letter saying that it's a visual stunt to swear to tell the truth and whole truth and nothing but the truth. So instead they engaged and spent thousands of dollars with attorneys rather than a couple $100 with an accountant who could bring forth the information and share that with you and say, here's our investment. They can't do that because they don't have one. So, we're in the process of town as a rate hearing. You're talking about making a connection, so you haven't even approved the rate. The last approval was in 2012. You're supposed to do it at least every 5 years. So you're almost 5 years overdue. So I don't know how you can approve to pay anything that you don't know what it costs. You haven't set a rate. It's out of date. It's not published. So that's the first issue. The second issue is, I've been doing this construction business for over 4 decades, almost 5 decades. And I can assure you that you bring a track hoe to a job, you dig up the ground, and you dig up the ground on both sides of the street. I'm going to say you guys made a physical connection to the pipe. Is that true?
As far as now, there is no physical connection.
There's no,
They dug up on both sides of the street to see on the side farthest where the pipe actually was. and the second on this side to see where they were digging to see where they're.
Perfect. That's why my brother read that part of the law to you for 2012. And I don't know if you remember it, but I was there in person helping to create for 2012 in settlement of litigation. And you cannot excavate, you cannot dig, you cannot do anything without a permit. So you authorized your contractor to violate the law. Excellent. Let me tell you folks, I'm a big taxpayer in this town. You spend $28,000 of my money and send it to that sewer company, that's illegal. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I will close public comment. And we will move on to a motion to accept the November 24th minutes. I need a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thanks, Frank. Any discussion? Brenda, can you pull the board, please?
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Carr.
Yes.
Councilman Crowell.
Yes.
Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalati.
Yes. Thank you. Next up is the motion to allow town highway to do winter maintenance on the roads in Fair Oaks Development Phase 1 and 2, and to allow the supervisor to sign the necessary paperwork. To the town board, highway department, maintenance of Phase 1 and 2 of Fair Oaks subdivision. Dear Town of Milton supervisor and town board members. Town of Milton Highway Department is asking for authorization from the town board to perform winter maintenance on both Phase 1 and Phase 2 of Fair Oaks. The roadways are not ready for dedication, however, we are comfortable with performing winter maintenance with board approval. Thank you for your consideration, David C. Forbes. So a motion to allow highway to do winter maintenance.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Betty? What is the paperwork that's going to get signed for that?
Here we have a copy.
Is that the resolution that I saw, or what is this?
It's disagreement.
You guys, that's fine. We haven't, David hasn't seen that yet. I just wanted to answer Mr. Olenek. John, just to explain about the reason we're requesting this is some of the infrastructure isn't up to the standards yet to dedicate, plus there's more homes going in. However, several residents have purchased homes, they're up to around 10 to 11 now. Our feeling is we'd like to make the roads safe for them to get in and out of the development, but we're not willing to accept the roadways yet until the developer is finished and brings them up to standards. Our engineers have held money in a performance bond to make sure they can fulfill all that. So really, we're just offering to plow and salt, really for the safety of the residents that are there, because they are paying taxes. So we want to provide the same service to the taxpayers.
Thanks, Jason.
I want to make one comment, and it's about the highway
Yeah.
department. I was out last week, unfortunately, at 5 o'clock in the morning, not to check up on the highway department, but to bring my grandson to work, and I wanted to stay on Milton roads, because nothing else was plowed that morning. The county roads, the geyser was horrible, so I stayed on our roads as long as I could, but they did a great job with that first snowfall. Thank you.
I'm making an assumption, Jason, this was the same agreement that you had last year.
Yeah, we just had a motion that
So
approved
it's
us
just
for
been
our
updated.
equipment in there. It's up to the highway superintendent, assuming they follow all the rules and guidelines we've given them of staying out of the roadway. So if at any point the developer doesn't, then we will just notify them that we'll no longer be doing it.
Okay, motion?
I thought we were
I
going
gotta
to.
make the motion in a second.
Brenda, can you pull the board, please?
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Carr.
Yes.
Councilman Crowell.
Yes.
Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalati.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. Next up is a motion to approve the proposal from MJ for amendments to the comprehensive plan and zoning. This is in reference to the Route 50 corridor. They need that we keep this project moving along. There are some things they need to do. Seeker is the first thing they need to do. There'll be an amendment to the comprehensive plan, amendment to zoning, and referring the project up to the county planning board for referral. The total cost of the project is $12,000. And like I said, this needs to be, doesn't need to be, but it would be nice if it was approved. We can keep the project moving. Both the county and the state have already written letters of support for the project for Capital District Transportation Authority. So I would like to keep this project moving along. So with that, I will entertain a motion to approve this proposal.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Ryan.
Second.
Thank you, Frank. Any discussion?
I do have a question, since we're talking about county roads, state roads, is there any chance that we can be reimbursed for these costs down the road?
Not for this cost, but there are grants available that will be able to be applied for as we move on to help reduce the costs.
I'm not going to vote in favor of this. I know the Route 50 study, we used the money from Stewart's, the $50,000 has already been spent. And I'm not sure where this is coming from, the rest of it, except maybe applying for a grant, as you said. I'm in favor of rezoning, also in favor of doing over the whole comprehensive plan. So at this point, I'm not going to vote in favor of this.
Any further discussion?
Just a quick question. Realizing that we have a state and county, really, what part of Route 50 is going to be the town's responsibility? None of it. Other than the zoning change, right?
Right.
Do we have to do the secret to do the zoning change? I didn't
Yes.
think so.
Well, according to Jackie Hakes, we do. For the comprehensive plan.
That's accurate.
Wouldn't it make more sense if we're going to look at the whole comp plan, Benny, to do the seeker for the whole comp plan instead of just piecing it out?
If that's what the board wants to do, that's fine. I'm just looking to keep this
I know.
moving along. There are, like I said, we've gotten letters from the state and the county supporting the traffic patterns and the new traffic amendments or improvements. And I'm just trying to keep it moving along. But if you guys want to wait till a later date, that's fine.
I just think it'd be better to do the whole plan. Maybe we could, I don't know how much this number will change, but
Well, give more for the whole plan, but it would be incorporated. Right?
yeah.
Brendan, can you hold the board, please?
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Carr.
No,
Councilman Frolich.
No,
Councilman Zoxon.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalati.
Yes. Thank you. Next up is a motion to allow the building department, Bill Lewis, Fred Harris, and Mark DeLong to attend required training February 28th through March 3rd, 2022 at a conference and a cost not to exceed $1,250 to be paid for per person, to be paid for by the county. This is their annual training up in Lake Placid.
I'll make that motion.
A second.
Any discussion?
I have a question. Who's watching the house, the office?
Sean, I would assume.
Sean, Fred, Tina?
Fred's home, you know?
Sean, Tina?
Sean.
I just-
Hold the board, please, Brendan.
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Crowell.
Yes.
Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Supervisor Salatin.
Yes. Thank you. Next up is a motion to approve the downland vision insurance plans as recommended by Yeager and Flynn. Yeager and Flynn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Frank. Any discussion?
Just as an update, it's the same plans we had last year. They've gone up 5%.
Can you pull the board, please, Brenda?
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Crowell.
Yes.
Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Supervisor Salatin.
Yes. Thank you. Next up is a motion to approve buyout 40 hours of vacation time from Lauren Orminsky.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Frank.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ryan. Any discussion?
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Crowell.
Yes.
Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Supervisor Salatin.
Yes. Thank you. Next up is a motion to buy out 40 hours of vacation time for Terry Zaya.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Brenda, please.
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Crowell.
Yes.
Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Supervisor Salatin.
Yes. Thank you. Next up is old business. As I told Mrs. Morosi a few minutes ago, the engineering firms from the village and the town did get together last Tuesday, I believe. Last Tuesday. And they did both these Liberty Hills test and the test for the Joseph Street district also. I don't have those results back yet. I will call the engineers this week, and I'll see where they are with that report, and when we get it, we'll make it public. Anybody else?
Did we do Terry's?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, we did that.
I guess this comes under old business. I'll make a motion that the town of Milton, pay the town of Milton $28,000 to be put in escrow for the sewer hookup.
I'll second that motion.
I don't think, can we just make it a motion, or does it have to be a resolution of some kind?
I don't think it has to be a resolution.
I thought that much money did have to be a resolution.
I don't.
Well, let's ask Jim.
Jim, who is it? It's gone. Gone.
Oh, I can answer.
Jim. There he is. Mr. Craig,
Yes, go ahead.
do we need a resolution, or can we use a motion to set aside the funds for this ERU hookup?
You can do it by resolution, you can do a resolution right now, just do it word for word. I think the expense was already included in Dave Bramer's budget. I think you're just authorizing the payment of it, if I'm not mistaken, so. And you can check with Dave on that, but either way, you can have Brenda put it down as resolution number whatever, to pay the sum of whatever that was, $28,000 for the sewer hookup charges.
And it goes from town to the town to the town?
Well, goes from the town to escrow in the town. And then once the certificate of occupancy has been granted, then it goes to the sewer.
But there's no established rate.
Is that correct, Jim? Hello, Jim, you there?
There's no rate.
Jim?
Jim, are you there?
Yeah, that was the question, is that Barb?
Yes.
Yeah, does it, it goes from our controller from the town to the escrow in the town?
It goes into an escrow account, not the town's escrow account, although we set it up. It's money that's escrow and set aside to be paid to the sewer company at the appropriate time for the sewer hookup charges.
What's the appropriate time? When the permit is granted?
Well, when we get a certificate of occupancy.
Oh, CO, okay.
CO.
I'm not sure about this. I'm confused.
So as we go forward, we can just dig up the ground and hook up it. That's okay.
So it would be resolution number, okay, to authorize the town to put $28,000 into escrow for payment later, at a later date when the certificate of occupancy is issued to Cherry Springs.
What do we get for 20,000?
No, make that.
28,000, what do we get?
I'll second. Any further discussion?
So, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't think we knew what the ERUs were at the time. So if that's the case, how did we have the money
County-
held in the budget?
Because we had an idea, and we held up to 1.6. So we had, the money's there, it's just.
Speaking of the microphone, people can't hear.
Sorry.
I'm hoping there's enough left.
We're
Okay.
really good on that budget. Dave did a good job on that. And the county has told us it's 14 ERUs, so the fee is $28,000.
Based on what we're here. Nothing. Perfect. $20,000 in my money. You don't know what you're doing.
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
No,
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zlatnik.
Yes, thank you.
Illegal. Okay.
Under new business, I have something from the county. There was a downstate legislator who has introduced a law downstate to take away funds from the VLTs. Assemblywoman Linda Rosenthal of Manhattan has introduced legislation to redirect revenue funding from the video lottery terminal gaming from the state's horse racing industry towards to use in other public uses. This would have a devastating impact on the local economy and the historic Saratoga racetrack. Horse racing in New York State is responsible for thousands of jobs and has a $3 billion economic impact in the state. Both the Racing and Gaming Committee and the legislative program update for Saratoga County are drafting legislation that we're going to turn into the state in opposition of this proposed legislation from downstate. And then new business.
are you gonna go over the resolution for the furniture?
Yep, we'll do it right now. So a resolution authorizing the expenditure of funds for the purchase of new and replacement furniture for Town Hall. Now therefore be it resolved, the Town Board, after due consideration and upon recommendation from the Town Controller, hereby authorizes the purchase of detached furniture, or other of similar type, quality, and value, and the expenditure funds in the amount of $82,000, plus any miscellaneous other expenses, and further hereby directs the supervisor to take whatever steps are necessary to order, obtain, purchase, and execute an agreement between the Town of Milton and Staples for the purchase of such at New York State contract pricing, and the delivery and installation of such improvements and furniture, and to do all that is necessary, and to pay the required amounts pursuant to such task. Therefore, be it resolved by the Town Board of Town of Milton.
Just so you know, hopefully we won't spend that much money.
Into the microphone, please.
Hopefully we won't spend that much money. We have to go through and evaluate what we have, what's broken. I saw some really scary pictures today of some of that furniture that was put into that trailer. Unfortunately, I think we're gonna have to get a couple of the highway guys together and start sorting through it, pull it out, sort through it, see what has to be replaced, what doesn't have to be replaced. But we came up with that amount. I think the building department is one of the higher priced ones. They don't have the petitions any longer. They wanted the cubicles. As far as just going to Staples, like the resolution says, that's under a state contract. I did question that, if we had to go up to bid on it. So I think it's gonna come down to a one-to-one, and what we're gonna actually have to spend. You know some of the things, you know, the secretary's desk was on blocks. And I'm afraid to see some of the things after they've been pushed into that trailer, so. Okay, that's all I don't know, I guess I'm.
Just along with this resolution, I would offer up myself and Barb to go through the.
You're offering me.
Unless you don't want to, Barb.
No, I did, I told them I would, and that's fine.
Go through all this furniture and figure it out, what we need, what we don't need.
It's gonna be hard. Difficult job, but, okay.
And I agree that we're gonna spend considerably less than.
That's fine.
Right.
Can I ask what's changed in the last 6 weeks when we talked about this at the budget committee meetings and budget hearing meetings, and no one wanted to spend any money on furniture, and now that we're 4 or 5 weeks past that, plus the order date, Lord knows when this stuff will come in, why all of a sudden it's important that we have new furniture, when I asked about that 6 weeks ago, and it was, well, we don't need to have new chairs, and we'll get by what we can have and what we don't need, and we'll go through it, and now
Well, I think
we're gonna spend it.
watching the progress in town hall and how nice and new and clean.
And when I said that during the budget meeting, we didn't need new chairs because we have chairs. Why do we need new chairs to go in on,
We don't,
on this?
we don't, Benny, that's the thing that we need to go through.
Yeah, and one of the things I think that was brought up was, there was $1,000 chair in there for someone. We don't need, nobody needs $1,000 chair.
I guess what
So we have to go through each item one by one.
I guess what I was looking at, Benny, I said it right along that we do need some furniture. Until we go through everything and figure it all out. I'm not in favor of buying all new furniture. What I'm in favor of is looking at the furniture we have. I mean, we had money in there to replace all those file cabinets. There's no reason to replace all those file cabinets. Things like that. Meeting room chairs, there's no reason to replace them.
Oh, yes, there is.
Well, I think when you get back into that room and see how nice it looks, and you're gonna put those chairs back in, I won't be there, but you guys are gonna be a little bit embarrassed to be walking into a brand new room and sitting on those chairs.
They're a standard chair.
No, those chairs gotta be replaced.
Well, that's gonna be up to you guys to figure out.
So a couple of comments. I was opposed at the time because I agreed that we did not have to replace all furniture and equipment across the board. And there was a discussion about going through what we had in inventory, assessing either the value or the condition and moving forward. The other thing was, we were looking at having these as line items in the budget against each department. Now, I thought months ago we talked about this as being in the town hall renovation budget. It appeared to be, maybe I'm misremembering, removed from that budget and added to the 2022 budget against each individual department.
No, I don't believe it was put in the 2022 budget. It was removed from the construction budget, but it was not added to the 2020, to the best of my knowledge, my memory, it was not added to the 2022 budget.
I thought when we were going through the tentative budget, those were the line items that we started to remove.
We did, Ryan, and we removed almost all of them. I know.
And we removed almost every single one of them.
But were they not earlier on included in the town hall renovation budget? Or were we not at least discussing that?
I think we talked about it, but it was gonna take us too close to our limit, so we took it out of there.
So where does the money come from?
It's coming from the general.
Unallocated.
It'll come from the general fund.
Unallocated.
There's money in the general fund to spend.
No, this is a nice one. This is a
Cover.
good one right here.
So,
This is a nice one.
any further discussion? Brenda, can you?
I don't have motion.
No.
I don't have a motion.
Okay, I thought we had one.
Nope.
We need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
We could die for lack of.
I believe we've covered the discussion end of it, so Brenda, can you poll the board, please?
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Carter.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isakson.
No.
Supervisor Zalati.
No. Motion carries. Anyone else have anything under new business?
I have something, I don't know if it's under new business or, it's very old business, very
Old
old,
business,
it's very
microphone,
old
please.
business. I don't know, very old business. A few weeks ago, I gave every member of this board a copy of the handbook that the committee worked on revising. Councilman Froelich is the only one that answered me. I've gotten nothing back, so I'm going to assume no one has any changes, and we'll move forward with our recommendations. Anybody got anything to say? No?
No, I'm happy with the changes, so I didn't make any comments. Anything else under new business or old business?
Just one quick thing, and I noticed it tonight coming down Rowland Street. Now that we're in the winter season, I would ask the residents that they take care to not put their garbage cans right to the edge of the road when we're having snow, because the snow plows do push them back. And full cooperation both ways. You know, the highway's been sensitive about doing it, not doing it, and a little help the other way, I think it would work out well. Yes, Linda?
I have twin bridges, and if we don't put them far enough out, they don't pick the garbage up, so what do you want us to do?
I don't know, to be honest with you, I just, you
When
know,
that first snowstorm, there were a lot of
yeah,
garbage cans knocked
it was
over.
due to the wind and snow. too.
Well, I'm not as concerned about knocked over, they just won't stop, pick up the arm has got to be able to reach the can and
Yes.
flip it up. And if you don't get it out there far enough, they will pay.
Well, I would think if it isn't much farther than your mailbox,
Okay, I'm just
it's
saying.
probably a good
You know,
measure.
I got a letter one time said that. So. That boy, what it?
Anything else? Okay, with that, we will have our closing public comment session. Anyone? Sharon?
Sharon Licata, 45 Lane, Wilson Spot. As a person that was on the committee for the employee handbook, I hope that people seriously read it. I wonder if everybody really read all those changes that we made and had no comment about any of them, which is kind of unique. So, anyway. I also wanted to know if we're doing anything with the ARPA money. Has anybody come up with any plans for that money other than a $300,000 street sweeper, which I will probably kick and scream about that for the rest of my days, versus something for the benefit of the people of the community, in particular mental health and children. So I know that there's a lot of problems with mental health issues right now due to the pandemic, and that money can be earmarked for that. I've sent a couple of different articles to every board member showing you what other communities are doing, and I hope that there's an effort out there to put together some serious ideas for that money. Also, very important, on the 15th of December, next Wednesday, 3 p.m., there is a meeting at the county supervisors, 40 McMaster Street, for the airport hangar situation. There are two hangars being proposed, one by North American and one by Barth, Aeronautical, whatever Barth is. I would like to hope that everyone who can make it will make it. It's important for us to keep our finger on the pulse of the airport, so to speak. I've read the lease agreements for what they're proposing to do for 40 years, and I have some serious concerns about those lease agreements. So I hope that everybody in our community who's underneath the flights of these helicopters and the airplanes and the whatever will take an interest and show up Very important. Thank you, and Benny, thank you for your comments in the Gazette this week. I read your comments, I appreciate the stand for the people. I hope it's not too little too late, that's all I'm praying for. And I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and thank you all for what you do, appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Bogosian.
Thank you very much. I guess Joe Biden would call me a one-trick pony, whatever that means. I'm going to follow up on the resolution we just passed, and I'm going to follow up on the comments from Mr. Froelich, who said they had to dig up the pipe to see, dig up the ground to see where the pipe is. Number one, all those sewer lines are laid with a wire tracer so you can identify exactly where the pipe is without digging up, because you have a piece of equipment that sounds off the wire tracer and you know where the pipe is. Number two, the sewer company should know exactly where the pipe is. So I would submit that it wasn't just dug up, it was connected into. Even if it wasn't connected into without the permit, according to your law, not mine, local law 4 of 2012, says excavation or uncovering of sewer lines are not allowed until this permit has been completed. So the permit can't be completed until tomorrow when you transact the funds. This happened about 2 weeks ago. I remember Mr. Manning got up and said, what are they digging up? If I remember correctly, Jerry. So 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks prior to the permit being submitted, we violated town law by digging it up to see where the pipe was. That's exactly what was said here tonight. Secondly, you authorized $28,000, which you need to pay according to the town's resolution. However, the town is in the middle of a rate hearing. You have not determined the rate. The connection fee has been determined by the appellate court in New York State to be a rate. So if you have not determined a rate, how can you pay for something you don't know ultimately what it is? It's not a legal rate. So I would offer a suggestion that you amend your resolution to reflect the fact that once the rate hearing is completed by the town, if in fact the rate is found to be less, the town will pay that rate. You can escrow the $28,000, but if, for instance, the town determines that the rate is then $10, you write them a check for $140 and get the rest back. That would be the prudent thing to do. It's taxpayer funds we're talking about. And in terms of doing a transfer from one account to another, I've sat here many nights and listened to account transfers ad nauseum. It can include $500, $2,000, $3,500. When you're doing your budget, you do transfers, and you have to have a resolution to do those transfers. So to just say that we're just going to transfer the funds doesn't work. Thank you.
Anyone else? Jason?
Yeah, discussion about a handbook. I'm just wondering, will the board be discussing any changes with department heads or employees prior to voting on any changes?
Say that again.
If there's going to be changes to the handbook, each full-time employee signs a handbook as some sort, affects their benefits. Just curious, will the board be discussing any of the changes with department heads and or employees for feedback on any of those changes prior to bringing it to a meeting and voting on
We
it?
certainly can.
It would just,
Don't have to.
something that'd be nice. I didn't realize that this was going on to this point. I didn't know
It's
Mrs.
been going on,
Licata.
Jason, for 2.5 years.
I didn't realize Mrs. Licata was on the handbook committee. I'm not sure when that happened. So I don't know who authorized that or how that happened. So I just want to make sure that there isn't a change prior to discussing it with us. Is that yours?
Mr. Bogosian?
Oh, thank you, Secretary. I'll try to enhance my brother's suggestion to you, and as a taxpayer in this town, I would ask that you amend your motion of the transfer of funds, that no monies be released until this board has established a legal rate. I don't mind if you switch it from account AXYZ to AXYZ, but I would respectfully ask that you do not release any money until the rate has been set. It's offensive. We don't know the rate. And yet you're transferring $28,000. And I'll quickly finish on that subject. You think it's offensive? You guys just transferred $28,000 of our money. It didn't affect you. But as a developer, if you're coming in and you want to build something and you do something like the town hall, why would you pay $28,000 for the privilege of hooking to a pipe of which there's been no investment, and you've made no determination, for the privilege of hooking to a pipe in the public right-of-way? Doesn't include any pipe, doesn't include any engineering, it doesn't include doesn't include anything. Why would you pay $28,000 for the privilege of hooking to a pipe that exists in your public right-of-way? My other point, furniture, made an authorization to spend up to $82,000. You don't know what you're going to be buying. I'm wondering how you're going to move into town hall if the furniture's going to take 4 or 5 weeks to get. How are you going to do that in 2 weeks? You said you didn't have those partitions that they had in the building department, Barb. I understand that. There's companies that do layout. My brother and I in the construction business, we do commercial projects. There's companies that come in. How do you know that the partitions you're getting are going to accept the electric? How do you know that they're the right size? How do you know they provide the proper ingress, egress? How do you know what you're getting?
We do have the layouts.
You do have a layout.
Yes, we have.
Excellent. And you put this at layout to bid to several companies?
No, I was told
We don't
because
have
it was
to
under
because
state
it's state
contract.
Yeah. Well,
State contract is
I
considered
did ask that
the lowest bid.
question today.
so it's a state contract. So do we know what furniture we're going to be receiving?
Yes, we know what product we spec.
But do we know if we're getting 20 chairs, 10 chairs, 8
We
chairs?
don't, until we go through it all, then that's when we're gonna make the decision.
And I get that, but it's the, 8th of December. So when are you going to go through it, and how are you going to order and get it? I don't know if you understand, the supply chain is horrible.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So how in God's name do we know that you're going to have anything to sit on when you go back there? And if you, I'm sorry?
To be honest with you, Tom, we have tables and chairs back there that we're sitting on and they've used for 2 years now.
Amen. Save me $82,000, keep sitting on them.
So, as long as we can use those temporarily, we can solve the problem.
Well,
Thank you, sir.
my last comment. You've heard me up here month after month after month. We beseeched you to do your job, and you've sat there and you failed to do it. You failed the rate hearing, you set the rate hearing, they refused to come, so you didn't conduct it, and you never set another one. I'm beyond disgusted. Why do you sit up there and do nothing? You gave Gina, and she's entitled to a response. Everybody in this audience is entitled to a response. But you don't respond to us about the sewer, and it's a requirement under the law. But by your actions tonight, opening up the ground, accessing the sewer, guys, we do this for a living. My brother's absolutely right. There's trace wire, it's plastic pipe, you can't determine it. That's why you lay a wire, trace wire. So don't tell me you had to dig up the pipe to find it. Thank you.
Mrs. Judah.
Hi, it was really difficult to hear the furniture conversation, so I'm going to hold comment, although I do have a few that I think that I would make in regards to that, till I can actually hear the recording and make sure that I know what was actually said. I just want to, for Mr. Dawson's benefit, provide some clarity. I personally believe that the residents have a difficult legal challenge in terms of doing anything in regards to licensing and permit at Planet. that does not mean that they're not still upset about what is happening. So I'm not talking out of two sides of my mouth here. I do think that this would be difficult. I questioned Barb Kerr's plan for the sound study because I think it's going to be difficult. I was not sure what was going to come out of that. But at this point, the board proceeded forth with paying for a sound study. And as Mr. Bogosian just said, we asked for update as to what is the results of that sound study, and we do not get clear answers on that, nor do we get clear answers on what's going on with the permits and licensing there. So we're asking for information as the residents of the town who are paying for these things, and we just keep getting silence to those questions. So this is another attempt to find out an update on this that was not addressed at the meeting. Thank you.
Mrs. Judah, I did request a sound study. I started the sound study. Supervisor Zlotnick decided to step in, and I told him as long as he was stepping in, and then it would be up to him. I did talk to the engineer this past week, and a couple months ago, Supervisor Zlotnick offered to call Mr. Dawson. He got through to him, and Mr. Dawson set all kinds of conditions on someone going on the property for the sound study. So that's all I know about it. I know the supervisor has talked to the engineer this past week, so maybe he can answer more of the questions.
I forwarded you the information that the sound study was requesting, Councilwoman Carroll. I did not step in and take over. No action was being taken, so I nudged things along. Now, if you want to drop this back in my lap with 2 weeks to go,
Well,
I'll be more than happy to take it. You've had 2 years to get this done.
That's right.
You've done absolutely nothing. So
I
to
will
dump this
take-
in my lap with 2 weeks to go, if that's the way you
I
want to go
will-
with
you
it,
played-
I'm fine.
You played
I'll take care of it.
You played a political game, Benny, with it, and I didn't want it to go that way. And so, fine, I'll take my part of the responsibility pushing for this study. But what did Mr. Dawson say to you when you asked for permission to go on the property?
He said he wanted to see the scope of study before he would allow anybody on the property. And I asked you to forward that information.
You didn't ask me to forward it, but you spoke to Tom. So I haven't spoken to him since the original call over a week ago. Because you had been speaking to him, so I saw no sense in but I'll get a hold of him. I'll call him tomorrow and find out where it stands. And I also don't understand why we're not allowed on the property when Mr. Dawson's license says town board can go on the property at any time.
Mr. Dawson.
Town board can.
Hang on
You
a
can't
second,
just
John.
bring on anybody you want.
Hang on, John. Mr. Dawson, go ahead.
Good evening again, Tony Dawson, Plant Waste Recycling, 274 Greenfield Avenue. First, in response to Ms. Judah's comments, I certainly appreciate the clarification, but the comments earlier and then the statement that she read into record on behalf of Mr. Landis was very different, full of misguided information, accusing me of not having a proper license, accusing me of operating under Ed Loy's license, and a whole array of other factually incorrect information, which is what I feel to be offensive and must stop. Now moving on to the noise study. I don't know where Councilwoman Kerr is getting her information from. The fact and the truth is that my office manager was on vacation last week. I ended up hearing a voicemail from Supervisor Zlotnick that was left on her mailbox. I called Supervisor Zlotnick back a few days later. We had a brief conversation. I said, Supervisor Zlotnick, I'm really not sure exactly what it is that B&L is looking for. And if you provide me with the information, I'll take a look at it and get back to you. I don't have enough information to make an informed decision at the time. Supervisor Zlotnick was driving. I emailed him my email address, so he didn't have to put himself in harm's way by trying to write it down. And I haven't heard anything back. Again, this goes back to the June 1st meeting that was intended for scrap anybody licensed in the town of MIlton. There are 3 of us. Why is the focus on me? in my company. It's unfair, it's a double standard, and it has to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Mr. Olenek?
I'm listening to the conversation about the payment of the $28,000 for these Hilton sewer rate and the question of the legality of it. And I guess I have a simple question, is why is this not deferred to our town attorney to give his legal opinion in regards to whether or not we should be paying that $28,000 prior to the time that the rate is firmly established through a rate hearing? Simple as that.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do nothing.
Second.
This is gonna change.
Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hurd.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isakson.
Yes.
Supervisor Gillette.
Yes. Thank you, this meeting is adjourned. Good night, your God bless you.